XYZ. That's sexism. Same thing with Kamala Harris. People were voting for her. I mean, I remember doing little interviews and you'd ask them, why are you voting for Kamala Harris? And they'd say, because she's a woman, she's a female, she's gonna be the first female president. It's like, okay, don't you think that that's sexism? What you guys have claimed to be against for the longest time. So I don't even remember what the first question you asked, but.
I don't remember, but yeah. All right, guys, got Hannah on the show today. It's March 19th. Trump is in office. How do you think he's been doing so far?
Oh, man, it has been win after win since January 20th. It's very exciting stuff that we're seeing. I think Americans as a whole, especially conservatives and even many Democrats, are very shocked at the things that President Trump has been able to accomplish. And it's exciting. It's the golden era, golden age, as President Trump says.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see a lot more.
He's accomplished a lot, but there's always going to be reasons that they doubt him. Right now, they're saying the stock market's his fault, right?
Yeah, they're going to find anything. And I know they're trying to attack Elon Musk right now. That's the biggest thing, is going after Elon because he's a billionaire, which is funny coming from the billionaire oligarchs themselves. I know Bernie Sanders is going on these tours to label President Trump as a dictator. And it's interesting coming from the individual that forced Americans to take a jab, and if they didn't, they were going to lose their job or lose opportunities. So it's interesting, but I think the hypocrisy, it's just becoming more and more clear. I was having a conversation the other day with someone, and the woman voted for Kamala Harris in November, and she said, she's like, I think that's probably the greatest regret of my life is voting for Kamala Harris, because now I realize that everything that President Trump said in his campaign, he's delivering on them right now, and it's benefiting me more than any other president I've ever seen in American history. And so I think we're going to see, especially heading into the next election, in 4 years, I really think that it's going to be even a greater American comeback than we saw on November 5th, 2024. So it's exciting. I really think, you look at COVID, a lot of people say, COVID was a big curse on this nation, on our world. But I also think it came with its blessings. People were really able to see the manipulation tactics, media propaganda, how the left was really hiding things behind the scenes. And it really just woke people up. Parents, you look at parents, kids were at home. They were doing school online, and parents were able to see what these teachers were teaching their children and what was being allowed in the classroom and in their textbooks. And so parents woke up. They started showing up to school board meetings, getting involved, realizing that if they do not get involved with their kids' education, they're going to lose their kids and they're going to lose this country. So I think this is literally the greatest. It's the revolt against the establishment, the revolt against the elitist class is what we're seeing.
Yeah, the left is scrambling. You got Gavin Newsom starting a podcast now to try to enter the media space.
Oh man, I saw that, and I watched the one with Charlie Kirk, and then he did Steve Bannon, and I actually showed that on my live show, and everybody was like, no, I can't believe Charlie Kirk would have a podcast with Gavin Newsom. I think it was really good because he was able to hammer him down. Because now you've got the Democrats. They're up in arms about Gavin Newsom. You saw on The View, Whoopi Goldberg was attacking him for not being clear enough on his stance on men and women's sports. And then she had Dylan Mulvaney on the little panel to try to say it's okay for men and women's sports. But I think it's actually hurting his campaign, his presidential campaign, worse than it could ever help him.
I think it's backfiring so far. And to start off with Charlie is a wild thing to do, as your first episode.
I guess he's never seen his debates on college campuses.
Yeah. Charlie can debate, man. I've been watching his new ones. He's back on tour and he's crushing it.
Oh, I'm so grateful for Charlie Kirk. I actually got involved with Turning Point when I was 13. That was my entryway into the political movement. I got involved when I was 13, started a Turning Point chapter. And we had a few meetings, a socialism versus capitalism debate. And then January 2023, I held a Teens Against Gender Mutilation rally with Turning Point USA. We had Chloe Cole. She's an 18-year-old detransitioner. She's 21 now, but she was 18 at that time. At 15, had her breasts removed because the medical industry lied to her. At 13, she was chemically castrated with Lupron, which is a chemical castration that they put male sex offenders on. And they don't even put it on male sex offenders in many states because they say it's too potent and too harsh. But of course, they're putting my generation and children on it just because, they're confused. And it's a tragedy what we're seeing. But Turning Point, Charlie Kirk, he has created a movement of young people. You travel to all these. I really, in the beginning, when he started to do these debates on the college campuses, I feel like the predominant, the majority of the students coming to attend the debates were liberal.
Yeah.
And now you start to see all of his kids show up to his debates, show up to these college campuses to hear him. And most of them are wearing MAGA hats. So, I mean, total switch, total flip from just a few years ago. And I mean, it's exciting.
I think back then it was a lot of shame being a Trump supporter, especially on a college campus, because most of them are liberal, all the public ones.
I wish I remember the statistic. I just saw it the other day, but there was a specific data that said that there was, I can't remember the specific number, but a large percentage of Gen Zers lied about who they voted for. And I said this on a podcast I was on recently, right after the election. I don't think that should be any coincidence when, again, when we've seen the Democratic Party, when we've seen the left for decades upon decades, shame young people, shame conservatives for voting the way that they vote. I mean, I show up to these college campuses and you can tell, like you'll be asking a lot of the students, you know, if they're conservative or not, or if they're voting for Trump or Kamala, and they want to like hear what their friends say before they speak up because they're afraid. And I mean, they've silenced them. You look at the girls' sports issue, you've got Paula Scanlon, which I know President Trump is stripping funding finally from the University of Pennsylvania, which allowed that man, William Thomas, who identifies as Leah Thomas, to swim on the University of Pennsylvania women's swim team. And all of the swimmers, the girl swimmers that had to not just compete with him, but had to watch him undress in their locker room 18 times a week.
Jeez.
Which is insanity. But you look at that, I mean, the way that they treated those young girls, bullying them, and bullying tactics, I mean, I've never seen bullying tactics like the way that these college campuses bully these young girls, telling them that they're going to lose careers, they're going to lose opportunities if they dare to speak up about a man undressing in their locker rooms and watching them undress. I know Kylie Alonso, she's one of my friends. She, I don't remember exactly the state she swam for, but she was competing against William Thomas at one of the state championships and the NCAA championship, and she didn't feel comfortable to share a bathroom with him. She didn't feel comfortable to undress in the locker room, so she undressed in the janitor's closet. And it's insanity to see all of these stories come out. I mean, it's great to see all of them coming out. Truth finally coming to a head, finally coming to the light. But it's crazy that it took this long.
Yeah.
I mean, decades upon decades of manipulation for people to finally start asking questions. How in the world did we get here?
It's nuts. I had Patriot Barbie on the show, and she was saying there was a guy in the women's locker room at her gym, but he changed his driver's license to say female.
Wow.
So when the police came, they couldn't do anything.
Well, I mean, that's got to stop. They have to make it illegal to where people, if you are born a male, you will always be a man. If you're born a woman, you will always be a woman. It's that simple. And this is the thing. In no sane and no healthy society are we even debating issues like this. So this is when you know that you have come to a point in society where its people have completely rejected a level of common sense morality, a level of common sense moral standard. We have no standard for morality in our society. And you give an inch to the Democrats, you give an inch to the left, our enemy. I mean, as a Christian, I mean, I believe that's Satan, but you give an inch and they're going to take miles upon miles. And it began, I really believe, and I talk about this in the book, Last Chance to Save Our Republic. You know, it really started in the early 1900s. You started to see promiscuity, you started to see easy divorce becoming normal, no-fault divorce, and then you start to see, fornication being normalized, sex outside of marriage, and then you've got adultery, and then homosexuality starting to be normalized, not gay marriage, but homosexuality.
Yeah.
And then it moves into, more of accepting things like transgenderism and that there's no difference between male and female. It's just a social construct. That's what the feminist movement was propagating in the 80s and 90s. And then we start to see, okay, not only are they just cross-dressing, not only are they just posing as women, but now they want to use our bathrooms, they want to use our sports, they want to be in our spaces. And now all of a sudden people are outraged and thinking, how did we get here, right? But there's a clear pattern. And then you look, and now we've got senators, we've got representatives endorsing pedophilia. There was a senator in California that said, pedophilia is not a crime, it's an identity. And so and you look at pornography, the most researched types of pornography are incestual pornography. So, I mean, this is what happens when you give an inch. I mean, there's no limits. There's no limits to sexual morality. There's no limits to sin. And I believe that's the reason why we're seeing the things that we're seeing. But I love Patriot Barbie. You mentioned having her on the show. She's awesome. And I have had a similar experience. I mean, just here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, 45 minutes from Nashville. I mean, we're predominantly a conservative state. We've got lots of conservative legislators, lots of conservative patriots that live here. And Murfreesboro, Tennessee, a small, it's growing, but a small town in Tennessee and a local little community park. We walk into the bathroom. My sister, she was 8 years old. We've got my sister, all other sisters, 15, walk into the bathroom and there's a man undressing in this local swim little community center. And immediately, I'm outraged. Like, this is an issue that I've fought against and I stand firm on, like, men shouldn't be in women's bathrooms. But it's happening everywhere. And I just saw in Illinois, a young girl being shamed, 13 years old, her and her classmates, girls, being shamed by the principal for refusing to share a locker room with a boy.
Wow.
It's insane.
That's nuts.
It is wild, the things that are happening.
Yeah. And it's everywhere, especially on social media.
Oh man, that ticks me off so much. Just the average age of someone looking at pornography, it is age 11.
Oh my gosh.
Age 11.
That is so young. That's what, 4th grade, 5th grade?
Yeah, 5th grade. Yeah, I mean, it's like elementary school.
Yeah.
It's sickening. And it's like no coincidence that we have an entire generation that is the most suicidal, the most depressed, the most anxiety-ridden generation. And I don't think that's any coincidence when we've seen nearly every single institution impose anti-God, anti-science, and anti-American ideas down our throats every single day through all of these different institutions. And one of those being pornography. I think it's just one of the pieces of the pie. I mean, there's so many contributing factors to why this generation is so anxiety-ridden, depressed. But pornography, I think, has a huge rise. I mean, you look at lesbianism among young women. I mean, I don't think it's any coincidence when they're watching, a lot of them are watching pornography. I mean, it's perversion is what it is. And so these young girls, young boys' minds are being perverted at such a young age, content that they weren't designed to handle. Like, their brains were not designed to understand and just be able to view it. It's really sad. I mean, I remember I was at a college campus right before the election, and I was asking a young guy his thoughts on pornography and when he first viewed and what he would do differently with his kids, if he had children, what he would do differently to protect them. And he expressed like a lot of regret, and he almost was in tears, and how, he started viewing pornography at about in 5th grade, so 10, 11 years old. And he started viewing it through some older brothers, older friends, and they thought it was a joke. And then he became addicted to watching pornography. And he said, one of the biggest things that I want to make sure is that I allow my kid to hang out with people that are going to be a good influence on him. But I also prevent, things like social media getting in the way. Because, I mean, you look at social media, my brother, he is 12 years old. And he made a video literally saying that our country needs more strong men. He gave the quote, strong men make good times make weak men, and weak men make hard times. He said that quote, and how we've gotten to a point in society where we just have a bunch of weak, cowardly men running around that are willing to stand up for common sense. And the video like blew up, got like 500,000 views. He has like 500 followers, got 500,000 views. All the comments were attacking him, like, oh, you're like 12 years old. Well, Instagram took that video down 3 to 4 times.
Wow.
Because it was hate speech.
So they take that down, but they leave.
Yeah, but of course, half-naked women and all of this content on social media, that's totally fine. So
yeah, social media is pretty much.
Well, and the thing is that big tech is not incentivized to protect children. And you just saw recently, I actually just had Elliston Berry on my show. She's the young girl that sat beside First Lady Melania Trump at the joint session of Congress, where President Trump gave the most historic speech, probably the best speech I've ever heard from President Trump. And that's not saying much, because he's given countless of amazing fireball speeches. But Elliston Berry, she's a young girl who's a victim of not necessarily pornography, but it was deep fake AI. So now you've got artificial intelligence in the box, where you've got people, these cowards and these perverted grown men that are taking these images of regular young girls, just taking pictures of their friends on Instagram. They're, fully dressed and taking these images and using artificial intelligence to create a nude image with their face on it and promoting it all over the internet. And this girl's image was on social media for 9 months before Senator Ted Cruz got involved and had them remove the image. And so big tech, they're not incentivized to protect children. And that's when parents have to come back in and say, I'm gonna take back the role as the parent, and I'm gonna protect my children.
That is crazy. 11 years old. I can't believe that. Like, that's way too young. Do you feel like the left is also trying to break apart the family unit?
Oh, 100%. I mean, and that started really, I believe that it's been more apparent with the feminist movement. Again, going back to just the trickle down between promiscuity, open marriage, sex outside marriage, which came with promiscuity, then transgenderism, pedophilia, and now we're starting to see incest being normalized on these platforms. So I do believe, I believe the feminist movement has been arguably the greatest threat to the breakdown of the family unit between one man and one woman. And the goal with it, I believe, was to pit men and women against one another. Yeah. And you saw in the 80s and 90s, again, like I said earlier, their idea of trying to convince society that there's no difference between men and women. It's just a social construct. And so here you have women really confused today. Like, how did we get to the point where men are in women's sports? And even the conservative movement will say, well, I'm a feminist, but I'm against men and women's sports. And I honestly think that's an oxymoron, because you cannot be for something that caused something else. The feminist movement caused men and women's sports by promoting this idea that men and women are equal. And yes, we're equal in value, but we're not equal in our roles and in authority in society. And that's common sense. You don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to be, a quote unquote religious person to understand that. You just look at nature. Just understand biological reality. Men are called to lead. They have a leadership, a protective instinct. Women have a more nurturing, just helpmate type of instinct. That's just the way that we were designed. That's the way that we were created. And so here the feminist movement comes in with a very strategic goal. I mean, you look throughout communism, they have always used movements such as free love, liberation to collapse the family unit and then ultimately to control society. So I believe this has been a very strategic goal. And unfortunately, we've reached the point where this is the most fatherless. Single mothers are on the rise. I mean, people are having less and less children every year. And it's really sad. But that's what happens when you stop asking questions and you stop pushing back against the narrative and the agenda.
I also feel like abortion's been normalized.
100%. I mean, and that came with the feminist movement. You look at Margaret Sanger. She, is the founder, the creator of Planned Parenthood. The largest provider of gender-affirming care, which I think is not gender-affirming care, because if it was gender-affirming care, then they'd come to the doctor's office and they'd ask you, what's going on? And they say, I feel like a woman. And they're like, nope, well, you're a man. You've always been a man, or vice versa. That's gender-affirming care, affirming the gender that God gave you, the gender and the sex that you were created with. But Margaret Sanger, in 1914, she coined the term birth control. And then she started the Planned Parenthood Federation and League, and she started all of these birth control leagues. And over time, her mission in the beginning was to ultimately eradicate what she deemed as the unfit of the population, what she said was the Black community. Of course, that did not fly in the faces of many in America, because they understood, they had common sense that was eugenics at its finest. And so they had to rebrand their mission. And not just that, she was even Hitler even esteemed her and was proud of the work she was doing. She worked with many of Hitler's colleagues, and many of the things that Hitler was promoting, she also agreed with. And she says that in her writing. She even spoke at many Ku Klux Klan meetings in the United States. And after realizing that Americans weren't buying her message, they had to flip the narrative. And this was to be about women's rights and women's liberation and really freeing women. And one of her quotes, it actually mentioned this in the book, I think it's in the chapter Abortion, towards the end of the book. She said, eugenics without birth control is like a house built upon the sands. So there's so many components to Planned Parenthood, to abortion, to their mission and to their goals. But you get here today in 2025, and every time I have someone on the show that's maybe a liberal or a leftist that maybe is full-heartedly for abortion up until birth, I love to go back to the history. I mean, why was Planned Parenthood created? Well, Margaret Sanger, to eradicate what she deemed as the unfit of the population, the Black community. That's one of the most racist eugenics type of statements that you could possibly make. That should fire up every single Black person in the world.
Right.
And get them up in arms to stop this. And I've had Black pastors on my show, and they say, anytime someone tells me that they're for abortion or for Planned Parenthood, I always tell them, so do you support white supremacy? Do you support racism? Because that's what she was. I mean, if you want to say someone is a white supremacist, that is Margaret Sanger, the founder and creator of Planned Parenthood. And now in 2025, they say that they have disavowed her. They've kind of separated themselves from Margaret Sanger. But of course, in 2015, 2016, leading up into 2016, they gave Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi both the Margaret Sanger Award.
Oh my God.
So anyone, I mean, that's like one of the most egregious awards you could possibly get. I mean, that's like the eugenics racist award right there for you. Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, and nobody knows that. Like, nobody talks about that because Planned Parenthood, their mission still stays the same because they're murdering children every single day, approximately 2,000 every single day. Nearly a million.
U.S. or is that worldwide?
That's in the U.S.
Okay.
Yeah, and nearly a million every single year in the United States. Who knows how many, worldwide. I mean, they estimate actually that about 40 to 50 million babies are murdered through abortion worldwide.
Holy crap.
And to contrast, because the left loves to counteract the abortion argument with gun control and getting rid of guns, but approximately 250,000 people die each year through gun violence and gun negligence. I mean, compare that. 250,000 people die approximately globally through gun violence and gun negligence. 40 to 50 million babies die globally through abortion. So, I mean, you look at that, I mean, that, of course, 250,000 dying from gun negligence, it's horrible. It's tragic. But eliminating guns isn't going to solve that problem.
It would probably make it worse, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because they're going to find something else. And this is the problem with the left. You look at President Trump, when he was almost assassinated in July, Butler, Pennsylvania, the left had no pulls for gun control. They didn't say anything about getting rid of guns. You look at the CEO of United Healthcare when he was assassinated. There were no ploys, no pulls for gun control. Actually, they said they were joyed. Taylor Lorenz, who works for the Washington Post, said she was joyed that that this had happened because maybe it would teach the healthcare system a lesson. And so then you start to like get your brain thinking, you start to realize all of these things and it's trickling down and your eyes are being opened and you realize that the left isn't necessarily about safety. They're not about safety. They're not just only about gun control. This is an anti-self-defense movement, which I talk about in the 3rd chapter of the book. Anti-self-defense movement. Why? Because once they can take away your guns, they'll go for your knives, which is what they're doing in the UK. And after that, they'll go for your pepper spray. They'll go for anything that they can take away to prevent you from being able to protect your family from a tyrannical government. And that is why our founding fathers put the Second Amendment in place, is for us as Americans to be able to protect our families from a tyrannical government. God forbid it ever gets to that point.
I agree. They're not about safety. They didn't give RFK Secret Service when he was running. I mean, he easily could have had an attempt on his life. And they didn't care.
I mean, and there's so many examples, example after example where they refuse to protect, not even just conservatives. I mean, RFK is not a conservative. I disagree with him on many different stances. I think he's great on the Maha movement, but they are opposed to anyone who wants freedom. And someone asked me the other day, they said, Hannah, what does Make America Great Again mean? Like, has America ever been great? And I believe, yes, absolutely. But Make America Great Again, I believe, at its core, stands on freedom. We want to get this country back to what it was intended to be, a nation founded on biblical principles. I mean, John Adams said our Constitution was created for a moral and religious people. It's wholly inadequate for the government, if any other. You look at the Democrats. People are constantly wondering, why is the Democratic Party as a whole constantly up in arms about our constitutional rights, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, all of these founding documents that were there to allow our nation to thrive and flourish? Why are they constantly opposed to what is in our founding documents? And I believe, as John Adams said, our Constitution was created for a moral and religious people. You look at the Democratic Party. They're the party of slavery, of abortion, of climate change, of open borders, crime, homelessness, drug addiction. I mean, the list is endless. There's nothing moral about any of those things that I just listed. And so it was not created for an immoral people. So until the Democratic Party, I know you had Adam Mockler on your show to talk about that. And he mentioned that the Democratic Party, I actually just saw that clip this morning, the Democratic Party, hasn't changed. The Republicans have. And I actually think I would agree with that because I don't think the Democrats have ever changed. They are the same party that advocated for slavery during the Civil War. They are the same party that stands for open borders. They are the same party today in 2025 that are advocating for the eugenics movement of birth control and abortion. And it's I agree with Adam Mockler that the Democratic Party has never changed. The party's never flipped, but the Republican Party has changed. And I believe it's better than ever. This is the movement that is waking up. I believe we're becoming more conservative than ever before. And I actually would say it's pretty exciting what we're seeing. Yeah.
The birth control programming was nuts because I remember being in high school and girls were so excited to get on birth control.
Yeah.
Just blows my mind looking back at that. They really programmed these women to feel like they need it.
Yeah.
aren't half with the women in our country on it.
You know, it's interesting when you say that. I mean, I remember thinking that like 3 years ago when I first really started speaking out. If you said the word birth control, people would kind of freak out, like, oh, you're not trying to take away birth control, are you?
Yeah.
And when I say birth control, I'm specifically talking about the birth control pill. And now it's like, whoa, like even liberal women are waking up realizing that this is like destroying their lives. And it's not controversial anymore to say that this is destroying women and culture as a whole. And it just goes into the pie full of population control. I mean, and the Democrats, they are the party of population control. I mean, look at climate change. Like, don't have as many kids or you're going to harm the environment or the climate. Make sure that you have birth control. Take these vaccines. I mean, Bill Gates even mentioned on many panels that they were going to implement these vaccines to have the ability to control the population. Margaret Sanger, I mean, her mission with birth control and abortion was ultimately to not just with eugenics, but also to control the population. So at the end of the day, this is population control, which is interesting because if you look at the Lord's first commandment in Genesis 1:28, it says, "Go ye therefore and multiply." So God's first commandment to mankind was to go out there to be fruitful and to multiply, to have a bunch of babies, to create strong warrior children and strong families in society. And here you look at the left and every single thing that they stand on is all about breaking down the family and creating a weak, emasculate society. And that's what we're seeing right now today in 2025. But I mean, you look at birth control, it's crazy what's happening. More and more is coming out. I mean, the way that it's altering young ladies' brains. Many are now they're infertile because they're not able to have children because of the pill and the way that it altered their hormones. It's really sad. But I'm happy, amidst all of these things that we're talking about, amidst everything that I mentioned in the book. Sorry, I just hear microphone. Did I just turn that off?
Is it off?
Okay. Amidst everything that's happening, amidst everything in the news and on all of these news stations, news outlets, I think this is, we are witnessing like the greatest wake up of the American people that we've ever seen. You look at any historical textbook, just a quick look at history. I mean, this is a movement. I don't want to say necessarily it's a revival, but I believe it's a movement back to the truth, to objective reality. I mean, the Democrats, they will literally tell you to your face that the sky is green. Like that's how far that they've gone, is they won't even acknowledge something that's right in front of them. Yeah. Like it's right here. And they won't acknowledge it. But
crazy.
Going back to birth control, I agree. It's horrific what's happened to so many young girls. And I talk to many women that will go to the doctor and they have a slew of different issues. And it's like this one size fits all solution. And that's many of the problem with big pharma in the pharmaceutical industry, is that they're just putting a Band-Aid on a deeper issue that needs to be looked at.
Yeah. Big pharma's been about to get exposed pretty heavily, I think. RFK, right? Maha movement.
Oh, I think that's so exciting. Just look at the autism rate. The autism rate, and that makes the left go up in arms when you mention that. And the correlation between vaccines. I remember, I don't actually remember it very clearly. I was about 4 years old. My parents were giving me several different shots because they weren't super knowledgeable on vaccines and what was in them. And immediately after I received a slew of different vaccines, I was vomiting all over the place. At 4 years old, like I was getting fevers. Like once a month, I would just spike high fevers. I would just start vomiting everywhere, like major sickness. And my parents did not understand what was going on. And then when I was a couple months later, after those episodes kind of dumbed down a little bit, slowed down, I started to have joint pain.
Jeez,
joint pain at 4 or 5 years old. And so my parents took me to the doctor and it was like something in my knee, like chronic joint knee pain. And I don't remember it very apparently, but it is crazy. That's just, that hasn't even affected me that much. I know so many young kids that vaccine injured. My sister, she was paralyzed in a freak swimming accident a couple years ago when she was 7. And we were in the doctor's office, and it's like every single little hospital room is another kid that is in there because he or she was vaccine injured.
That's crazy.
And it's really sad. But I'm excited. Maha movement, Make America Healthy Again. It's been time. I know so many people that have been on this movement long before it was cool, long before it was trendy to be making America healthy again. Seed oils. It's like a new thing comes out every single day. I remember when Alex Jones was talking about how like the water was turning the frogs gay, and everybody was like, this conspiracy theorist, horrible. Like nobody's going to listen to him. This is absolutely outrageous that he would make a statement like that. And now people are avoiding certain types of water because, yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, that's what happens. Like, finally, people are starting to ask questions.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of conspiracies that are ending up true. Like JFK Files just got released yesterday.
Yeah, it's exciting. Well, you know what's interesting about the term conspiracy theorist? It's like created by the CIA to convince the public that the whole JFK assassination was a conspiracy. And I mean, the same people that will label us as the conspiracy theorists are the ones that created the problem in the first place. But it's exciting. I know that the JFK files, it wasn't as many that we were hoping for. Same thing with the Epstein files. I mean, that kind of ticked a lot of conservatives off, seeing the influencer picture. But I'm not going to, you know, rat out President Trump for that. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that are preventing these things from being brought to a light. And every single person that was involved in that whole Epstein little outrage that was not Epstein files at all. It was just a bunch of random names that we've seen before. We've been, you know, given little bits here and there about, you know, the Epstein files, but we haven't gotten the real truth. And so the people that are behind the scenes that have been there way before President Trump has even gotten in there, these are the people that need to be held accountable. And I'm going to say this, I want to see real accountability. You know, Christopher Wray, who his hands in the whole January 6th Fedsurrection. I don't want to call it an insurrection because it wasn't. Number two reasons, you know, there was no weapons, no conservative brought weapons that day, and they didn't kill anyone. No. The only people that died were from the cops. And it's sickening to see, but I do want to see accountability be held for every single person that has been involved in this corruption behind the scenes. And this is, and I'll tell you this, Sean. I was talking about this on my show the other day, or to someone, we're constantly calling for accountability. You know, this person needs to be held accountable. You're seeing all of this swatting happening to conservative influencers. One of my good friends, Sean Farish, lives like 20 minutes from me. He was recently swatted, him and his wife.
Alex Jones' friend got swatted yesterday, I think.
And Alex Jones, main journalist.
Yeah.
Murdered.
Oh yeah, that guy got murdered. Yeah, that was crazy.
I mean, and going back to earlier what we were talking about, just the attacks on Elon Musk and the left. Yeah. This is the party that's claimed for decades that they're the party of love, they're the party of intolerance, they're the party of community and unity and all of these lovely things that sound lovely in nature, you know, but they're not. And they've never been the party of love, because the most loving thing you can tell someone is the truth. You can't change your sex. The most caring thing you can do for someone is allow them to come to your events and to not drown them out. I mean, I remember when I held the Teens Against Gender Mutilation rally, I invited them. I invited to the LGBT groups at the local college campuses. I was like, hey, I want to hear your voice. I want you to come out. Please be peaceful. But I would love for you to come. Like, we'll have a time for Q&A. You can ask Chloe Cole the detransitioner questions. We want to hear you. They come up, 200 of them come to our little rally, and they bring drums, they bring whistles, they bring like any instrument they could possibly bring. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. If you've ever been to a rally, like where they have both sides there. And I told them, like, we love you. Like, we love you. And that's why I wanted you to be here. Like, we love you, LGBTQ. That's, remember what I said. And I even remember mentioning how you guys aren't the party of love. You aren't the movement of love and tolerance, because I would never show up to an LGBTQ rally or to any of, a BLM rally. I would never show up drumming and making as many sounds as possible. And even if I tried, I'd be attacked. Yeah. That wouldn't even be allowed possible at one of their rallies. So it's becoming more and more clear to the American people that this is not the party of love. It's not the party of tolerance. You look at DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which it's not inclusive. It's actually exclusive, because you're excluding the most qualified person for the job. I mean, that in and of itself should tell people that the Democratic Party is the party of racism and sexism, because you're hiring someone based on their color of their skin, which is racism, and you're hiring someone based on their sex, whether or not they're male, female, or they identify as XYZ. That's sexism. Same thing with Kamala Harris. People were voting for her. I mean, I remember doing little interviews, and you'd ask them, why are you voting for Kamala Harris? And they'd say, because she's a woman. Yeah. She's a female. She's going to be the first female president. And it's like, okay, don't you think that that's sexism? What you guys have claimed to be against for the longest time. So I don't even remember what the first question you asked, but
I don't remember. But yeah, basically they're not the party of peace. I mean, there was an attack on Tesla yesterday in Vegas. Did you see that one?
I did see that. I mean, it's attack every single day. There's a new headline about some deranged leftist attacking. And I had my brother on my show yesterday. He's 12. And he said, the ironic part of it is that they buy these Teslas and then they blow them up thinking that they're going to cause Elon Musk to lose money after they bought the Tesla themselves. So he already got the money. But even those that didn't buy the Teslas that are just blowing up these electric vehicle charging stations, that's it. They are not the party of love. They're not the party of tolerance. They are the party of violence.
I just saw a few days ago, there's a website that doxed all Tesla owners. So if you own a Tesla, if there's a map and it has your address on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That I did not see that, but that should be made illegal immediately.
It should be, yeah.
They should be, any person that is involved in that. Same thing with the swatting. These people need to be held accountable. They need to be arrested and put in jail. This is domestic terrorism. These people, something bad's going to happen if they continue to do this across this nation, because one conservative does something wrong and they get shot.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the police, didn't mean anything, but they got a call saying that whoever's inside that house is doing something they shouldn't be doing, and boom, someone makes a bad decision, didn't know they showed up, and
yeah, Kash Patel said the swatting's out of hand right now. Like it's insane. So that's really concerning. What have you been thinking of all the executive orders? It's been so much.
Oh man, I am really excited about the executive orders. The amount of executive orders that President Trump has already signed, this is more than Joe Biden signed at this point, 2 months into his presidency. But my biggest thing, we can sign executive order after executive order. We can sign thousands of executive orders on common sense issues like men shouldn't be in women's sports. There are only 2 genders. Withdrawing from the World Health Organization, I think that was incredible. We've got to get away from globalism and from these globalist elitists. But the biggest thing is Congress has to get their butts in gear. Congress has to get in action. They have to start passing these bills. You look at the House and the Senate on just something as simple as the girls' sports. They passed it through the House, the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. Representative Greg Steube introduced that in 2023, got it passed, but they can't get it through the Senate because every single Democrat votes against men and women's sports every single time, and so they can't get it through the Senate. Which I did see the other day. I think there's like 26 Democrats that are in hot water right now throughout California and Democrat-run states because liberals are fed up too. So I think sooner than later we're going to have a Senate that we can get control of, and we can pass these bills and protect women's sports and get rid of all of these just insane types of things in our country. But the executive orders, incredible, but they can be removed. They can be through an executive order, they can be undone. Yeah. So next president comes and it's a Democrat, God forbid that happens, but they can just undo every single executive order that President Trump just signed if Congress does not get their butts in gear and start passing laws to protect and ultimately put President Trump's agenda in place.
Makes you wonder if there's people in these congressmen's ear, Yeah. You look at who's funding them, it's like, what the hell? That's weird.
I had Madison Cawthorn. I'm sure you know who Madison Cawthorn is. He was a congressman in, I think it was North Carolina. It was North or South Carolina. And he was explaining to me a lot of the stuff that goes down in Washington, D.C. that he was so shocked by. Just the amount of people that will offer you money to say X, Y, Z. They'll put stuff on your tables. You walk into the room, they're like, all right, you're going to sign this, or you're going to lose this opportunity. All right, you're going to do this for this amount of money. And he's like, it's insane. Like, there are so many people. Like, how many Republicans are bought and controlled? And he was asking that question on my show, and he's like, I don't think people realize how nasty, how dirty, and how corrupted even the Republican Party has become in the United States of America, and how many of them are truly bought and controlled and are being told what to say. Like you mentioned, you see those little sound bites even, and I haven't seen this necessarily from the Republicans, but even the Democrats, where they'll all be saying the same thing on the same day. Yeah. And so you wonder, it's like, who is sending out all these sound bites? Who's controlling the narrative here? Yeah.
We'll follow the money.
Yeah.
I think you and I both know some of the organizations behind it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's crazy, but again, I'm excited because I think people are finally starting to wake up to all of this. And even when I wrote the book, Last Chance to Save Our Republic, which just came out January, just a couple months ago, a lot of people, even in the beginning when I was writing it, there were publishers saying that they weren't going to publish it because it was too controversial and they didn't want to have their hands a part of January 6th or being an anti-vaxxer, which specifically just the COVID vaccine. I didn't mention any other vaccine other than that one. And now it's those same publishers are coming out wholeheartedly for everything that's in this book. And so it's like, wow, it's so eye-opening. So many people, even just 6 months ago, that were opposed to many of the things that we stand on are now totally going full on President Trump, MAGA movement.
Mark Zuckerberg completely switched.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're the first one, it's never good, even if you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Alex Jones, you look at like Nick Fuentes, like they end up being right 5-10 years later, and then they're still labeled crazy. People don't forget. So you never want to be the first one, you know? It's like the worst spot to be in.
Well, I mean, truth will always prevail. Truth will always come to a light, but yeah, it's hard. I mean, in the beginning, those first few years, I can only imagine how hard it was for Alex Jones. And I'm sure there are things he says that I probably disagree with. They're always going to find that with people in the movement, no matter who they are.
You can't shoot 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. But by and large, they have good intentions. And I think that even look at President Trump, so many Christians, especially like evangelicals, refuse to vote for him. I know some that I was constantly like, what is your problem? Like, vote for President Trump. He is going to take back this country. You're going to vote for Kamala Harris, who's going to destroy this country from the inside out. I mean, look at her campaign. She left her campaign in debt. I mean, how much more in debt would she have gotten our nation in? Yeah. Would we have been able to, would we have gotten to the point where we have to file bankruptcy as a nation if Kamala Harris was in office? I would say probably yes. I mean, it's crazy, but
I've never heard of a candidate doing that.
Getting into debt in their own campaign.
That makes no sense.
I don't think I've seen that either.
That much too? It wasn't a small amount.
Yeah.
It was tens of millions, right?
Well, and not just that. I mean, the reaction that she had after she lost the election, I think they had like a little watch party and all. Did you see the videos?
No, I didn't see
the footage of the faces of the people that were attending the watch party after she lost. They were just in distraught. They were super sad. And she wouldn't even give a post-loss speech. She didn't even give an election speech. Of course, they're sore losers.
Yeah.
But going back to President Trump, look at the heart of the man. I mean, that's the problem with a lot of Christians, evangelicals, is they're only looking at the flaws, the imperfections, rather than just looking at the heart, where the person is going. I don't care, of course, I'm going to look at the past, understand things that you've done in your past. But I mean, look at King David in scripture. I mean, he committed adultery with Bathsheba and had Bathsheba's husband put on the front of the lines to be killed, to be murdered, to cover up his sin. And God said, this is a man after my own heart. Why? Because he was looking at the heart of David, because he saw change and a repentant heart. And I think we're seeing the same thing with President Trump. I'm not necessarily going to compare him as much, but I mean, he's changed. Yeah. He is a different person from, even just Butler, Pennsylvania. I think that really changed him. He's even said many things on stages saying that changed him and that God saved his life. And for that, he's been able to realize that life is short and we are blessed and we cannot take any day for granted, any moment of our life for granted. And so I think it's beautiful. I believe that a lot of Christians are finally starting to come around and realize that it's more important to look at someone's heart and where they're headed rather than their past or their flaws and imperfections.
Absolutely. So, you got to meet Trump, right?
I did.
Where was that?
I got to meet him June of last year in Detroit, Michigan. He gave that speech at the Turning Point. I think it was Turning Point Action. I believe the Turning Point Action conference. So got to meet him there. That was pretty cool. Met Kai Trump as well, and nice. Some of his grandchildren, So that was really cool. And just to be able to talk to him and talk to President Trump and see how, he's feeling, especially because that was actually a month. That was just a few weeks before he was almost assassinated in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Crazy.
But yeah, that was really cool. That was awesome.
I've met a few of his family and they're all just super impressive to me.
I've got to say, when I was speaking on the ReAwaken America tours with General Flynn and Clay Clark, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
Yeah, I am.
Awesome tours, lots of energy. But Eric Trump, Lara Trump, and then Kimberly Guilfoyle and Don Jr. all spoke at these tours. I think there might have been a couple other Trumps, but I think it was just those four.
Yeah.
And they would show up. And I actually remember in Las Vegas, I spoke right after Don Jr. And that was like the highlight of the tours for me. Because that was super cool. Like getting to speak right after
That's crazy.
Donald Jr. And I just turned 16 at that time. So that was really cool. And just being able to see it was a funny story that night. Actually, the Las Vegas venue that they booked was threatening to turn off the AC and the lights because of something that they disagreed with the event. They were trying to make up some story. But General Flynn, he went up to them and he's like, listen, there is a 16-year-old that's going to be speaking after Don Jr. for 15 minutes. She's going to be speaking for 15 minutes. Let her speak. If you don't, there's going to be some bad press about you guys. It's not going to look good for you guys. Shutting the lights off on a 16-year-old. But that was really cool just to be able, and I will say, they're some of the most genuine people.
Yeah.
People will make all these accusations against them, talking about how, they're in it for the money or they're in it for the fame. Lara Trump specifically and Eric, I mean, they are the most down-to-earth individuals that I've met in politics. General Flynn as well. They're in it for the mission-oriented, mission-focused. They have one goal in mind: restore this nation, restore this constitutional republic, and restore freedom back to this nation. And that's beautiful to see, because you don't see that a lot, even from politicians, even from conservative Republican politicians in America. You don't see that. Most of them are willing to have a conversation, but they will stop. They'll take pictures with you. They'll have conversations with you. And I've seen it, as I'm at these events, I've watched them, just engage with people, and they care.
Yeah.
And that's what matters. And that's what's important to the American people too.
Absolutely. I love it, Hannah. Where can people find your book and find your show?
Yeah, Last Chance to Save Our Republic. My website's cultureof1776.com. And then my show, The Hannah Faulkner Show, on Rumble. And then I do a live show as well every day on LFA TV.
Awesome. We'll link below. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. God bless.
Check her out, guys, and see you next time.